Call the January 27th Planning Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
George Bousset,
Here.
Bradley Ray,
Here.
Elizabeth Brannick is excused. Pat Kinney,
Here.
Gary Mertig, he will be, I heard, here shortly. Paul Wilharm,
Here.
Dan Grady,
Here.
Lissa Radke, and Charlie Ortman.
Here.
All right.
All right. First item of business is elect a new chair. Are there any nominations for chair of the committee?
I nominate Brad Ray.
Second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Can I nominate somebody? But you guys won't second it anyway. I won't do that to Liz. All right. With that, any other nominations? Nominations are closed. One nomination. All those in favor of me being the new chair?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Anyway, okay, then I'll stay here in this chair. Accept a moval to approve the agenda. Go ahead, Trent.
Move to approve.
Who says second?
Any changes, alterations to the agenda? All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments in the room? Any public comments online? Any public comments? Any public comments? Without moving, we'll move to item number 5, approval of the minutes from the November 20th, 2025 meeting.
Move to accept the minutes from November 20th, 2025 meeting.
Charlie motion.
Who says second?
George seconds. All those in favor, or any comments, questions,
Aye.
changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to item 6, discussion items. A, confirm planning process timeline, benchmarks, and roles and responsibilities. I think that goes over to you guys.
Thank you. And I'm going to, if that's okay, share my screen. And it said I need to send a request to do that. Share. Oh, yes, it does say only one presenter. But I wanted to start off, now that we're into a new year, sort of revisit and reconfirm the plan update process, timeline, benchmarks, and roles and responsibilities. But I wanted to start with the overall timeline, and that the plan update process overall, for the process, updating the plan, we started our first meeting together in August 2025. We want to conclude that no later than August 2026. We're also targeting a public open house. That was looking at the month of September, and then we would go into the formal plan adoption process, and that takes typically 4 to 5 months. And after the public open house, this committee would have a resolution that would start the plan adoption process, and that kicks off the 30-day public comment period with a Class 1 notice in the newspaper, and then the adoption of the plan by the county board by ordinance, and we were targeting that in January 2027. We're looking at about 1 meeting per month, and am I able to share now? I wanted to share the timeline that we had shared as part of a presentation I think at our first meeting together. So this would be this is the presentation that we talked about, the overview of the plan update process. The timeline would be laid out as follows. So that means about 5 more planning committee meetings remaining that are facilitated with Northwest Regional Planning Commission. And that's about 1 meeting per month to keep us on track. And then our role for these meetings and for the entire process is to facilitate and to guide the committee. But the decisions and direction for all of this, they come from you. But we're still working with this together, like on this together. We bring a planning and sort of a regional perspective, along with some of the data and the background information to inform the discussion that we have with you, the committee. But the data on its own doesn't answer everything that you need for this plan update. You bring that local knowledge, the expertise that we need, and will help interpret and decide what questions matter most to include as part of the plan update. So each of these meetings is a key part of the plan update process as facilitated by Northwest Regional Planning. We bring materials forward that we want you to take a look at, try to structure the discussion and the committee's input at each of these steps, and figure out what comes next based on what we get through during a committee meeting. And that's how we can continue to work on this collaboratively, working together side by side rather than delivering something from the outside. That doesn't really work. So the draft chapters themselves, we are still in progress on those. We lost a bit of time because of the federal government shutdown. We weren't able to access some of the, like the US Census data website was no longer available. And then right now we've been working on reconciling things because the 2016 plan was only an addendum. It didn't have all of the information that the 2006 plan had in it. So we're working on making sure those align with one another, and then we'll be able to share those. But I wanted to get your perspective on how to share those. For the hazard mitigation plan that I worked on, we put the draft plan chapters on the Northwest Regional Planning Commission website and then provided a link to Ashland County to post on their website. That way, as feedback came in, either from the public or from this committee, Northwest Regional Planning Commission could update things. But if things came up that were more substantive that should be reviewed by this committee, we'd then bring that forward for a discussion topic at a committee meeting. Does that sound something reasonable? I was thinking that that was something that we could probably have the draft plan chapters before the next meeting with the planning committee. How does that sound?
Hello, Gary.
Anybody have any comments? Charlie, you got it?
Can you go over that again, please? I'm sorry.
Starting from the draft plan chapters? So we've been updating the background information in the previous plan. The 2016 plan has 9 chapters or elements according to the comprehensive planning law. We've been updating, say, the population trends, the housing information that we can get from public sources. But one side of that is that the 2016 plan was an addendum. It was not a full plan. So we're looking back right now is what we're doing, looking back at the 2006 plan and incorporating information. The 2016 plan was only an addendum. There are several references in the 2016 plan that says, look back at the 2006 plan. So we're making sure that this is a full update this time around.
Charlie, you want to use your microphone? That's right.
So it's not adequate as an addendum, or we need to,
I think it would be important for this plan update for it to be a full plan update with all of the information. So you have the 2026 plan that includes all of the information that you want to look at. You don't have to go back to the 2016 plan.
so pulling the addendum out and putting it into the appropriate place?
Yes, that's exactly
Yeah,
what we're doing now.
basically, instead of refer back to this one,
Yes.
it's going to be in this.
It'll be right
26. It
there.
just takes a little bit longer when you have to go then to 2 different documents.
Yes,
Okay,
be
so
pulling
then
it
that
up.
document would be just archival historic
Yes,
thing that
you have,
wouldn't need to reference
Yep.
to it.
exactly. Well, you still have that as a resource, a historical resource, 2016 and 2016. Yeah, 2006 and 2016. And then you would have the 2026.
Okay, and our role, and you see this as just saying, yeah, let's do that, or do you need us to review?
I'm saying that that's what we're doing and that's why it's taking more time. And then my question was, if we put the draft plan chapters after we've updated all of that background information and reconciled the 2006 and 2016 plan, and we put them on the Northwest Regional Planning Commission website for you to review, and the link would also be publicly available,
Okay,
is that sound like a good next step?
S- so then I'm thinking we should schedule meetings, not with them, to look over each plan, maybe each update individually, trying not to take 2 days or.
Right, and I think, so the general timeline laid out here on the screen, I think that fits what we need, and we know it's gonna be aggressive, and we're gonna go through that. I think the part of this agenda that kind of needs is what are the benchmarks to help with us then scheduling the plans, like Charlie's mentioned, is as you get chapters online, I think unless somebody has an issue with that, having them have access so that if the public says, hey, you got this all wrong, they can fix it right away instead of like going back and we get multiple drafts. I think that's great. But what are the benchmarks to help us plan our meetings that you won't, because you won't be at every one. You're only got 5 more,
Yeah, we
right?
won't, my plan is not to have any discussion on individual chapters.
Okay.
As a planning committee that's facilitated with Northwest Regional Planning Commission, I was planning for the last meeting, once all the chapters are done, before we do the public open house, to have one final look as a full committee. It's typically, in general, counties that have done the plan updates have had either the focus groups or individual members of the committees review those separately from planning committee meetings, but I think that's fine to have planning committee meetings specifically to look at the chapters of the plan. I want to put the chapters of the plan all online at one time.
Okay. So there won't be a slow merge
No,
when they're all
that's
gonna
not
go.
my plan.
Do you have a time frame of when that's gonna happen?
It would be, I hope to do that before the February meeting, but that would not include the plan maps. And then there are also pieces to the land use chapter that need to go through the committee before they would be included in the chapter.
Okay. What other benchmarks should we have within this timeline to make sure that we're hitting everything
So then we have the community survey that has the January 31st deadline
that's out right now?
that is out
Yep.
right now, and we do have an update on that. Do we want to share that update?
Yeah.
Yes.
So is there any reason, when you update a chapter or a part at a time, that you couldn't throw it up there and tell Bradley, and then we could you could schedule a meeting and we could go over them bit by bit? If you throw them all on there at once, then I guess you could pick which ones to do, but.
Basically, it sounds like they're all gonna go up at once
Ye-
within the next month anyway. So I don't think that
Oh,
the slow, I was, Charlie, I was with you originally, is that it would be section by section would just start appearing as they finished them, but it
Okay.
sounds like they're all gonna be done in
all
the
right.
next
And
month.
then you
period.
could just schedule one.
And then we'll have to figure out the timeline to go through those.
Okay, thank you.
And, but, do we want to go to okay, so the demographics, oh, that's all that's changed. Okay. But you have the update on the survey.
Yes.
Go
survey
ahead.
Update.
Yeah, I took a look at the survey today, just to see where we were at. So far, we've got 202 responses. That's about a 6% response rate. Not the greatest, but it's not terrible. 86% of those responses were full-time homeowners in the county. 47% of those responses were from City of Ashland residents. We had 12% from the town of Marengo and 11% from the town of Ashland, and the remaining 30% kind of split evenly between the other municipalities in the county. So that's where that's at. I don't know if you want to do another publicity push on it before it gets wrapped up, or if we just let it go or we can always extend it another couple weeks if you think.
What sort of participation rate? You said 6%, but what sort of would be a good target?
I like to hit at least 20.
20%.
So, and even that is kind of a small sample size, but it's-
So a publicity run, because it did all go out right around the holidays, which is
that's where the tough part
sometimes.
is.
If we extend it longer, what sort of delays does that have in getting the chapters out? Or does this have anything to do with the chapters? No.
No, nothing to do
Okay.
with the chapters.
No, I would still get you the results before the next the February meeting. Regardless if you do it, extend it another 2 weeks, and then I have two more weeks to put the results together for the meeting.
Go ahead, Erica.
In terms of publicity that we have done, Lissa had a long list of contacts that she has contacted, so community groups, I don't know her full list, but I know she did a lot. I then also contacted all media outlets that I could, that somehow overlap Ashland County, and sent them the information. I don't know how many of them have actually had an issue yet, right? So if, when it came out, I think within 2 days I sent it out, but then, some of these don't have monthly issues
Right.
even. And then the biggest market, of course, would be the Ashland Daily Press. They did not want to immediately run another article on the comp plan because we had just published one 8 weeks ago or something. They are very interested in us running a very expensive ad. And so we got the numbers on that, and Dan and I spoke about it and just did not think that it would be worth it.
If we want to do a paid ad campaign, I would say we do it on Facebook. You're going to get the most, you can narrow it down to whatever demographic you want and whatever geography area you want. And I think you're going to get the most hits that way, and include a link in the post instead of just the QR code. Because you're on your phone. I'm sorry, you can't use the QR code.
Well, I'm sure it got shared on Facebook. Listen,
Oh, it has.
Facebook. So it's already on Facebook.
But that
And
doesn't mean.
I thought the way Facebook was is everything showed no matter
No,
what.
not.
But I stopped looking because I just saw things that I didn't care about.
That's not the way it works. When you pay for an ad, it actually targets certain demographics.
Oh, okay.
So you will get, say, all females age 40 to 49, if you want to do that. So I would say if you want to go paid, that's probably the best route to use.
Go ahead, Pat.
That's probably the cheapest one.
So it seems that this information would be used when we look at updating the chapters to look at goals and objectives. So we could backtrack from that. So more time likely means more data. I don't support paying anything for this, but when we get to looking at goals and objectives, something that we need to bear in mind is we used a survey from another county from in the past. Comp plan should be forward-looking on where this county wants to go. So we should look at the validity of those questions and ask ourselves very hard, did we even ask the questions that were important to us? At this point, we can't go back and change that. But when we get to goals and objectives in the comp plan, we really have to take some time and think about what we want going forward. That's what matters at this point. This data, again, we have to bear in mind, it wasn't our questions from this point in time, and we only can and should give it just so much weight, but only after we determine that it's something of interest to us, and not look at this data and say, well, public said this or that about something that's important, because those topics, we may know some things where how it fits in going forward on where it stacks up.
Well, and I agree with that, Pat. And I think with 3 days left, I think we just take the results as we get at this point. And then we can go back with, the idea that we were talking about, maybe having focus groups where we'd go around, or a traveling roadshow or something like that, that we'd go around get public input that way. And it might help once we have some documents to actually share as opposed um, to lead into it. Because maybe a lot of the comments come in October when or the 30-day comment period in November there that we can get. When people see the document, it's easier to comment on whether we're looking forward enough or not. Go ahead, Charlie.
I do think I can certainly ask Extension to repost it to their Facebook page so that it's, again, just in case somebody said like, oh, I want to do that, but they couldn't. And then once we have this
Yeah.
like deadline in 3 days, maybe they'll do it. Because that does get shared. And when I posted it on my own personal Facebook page, it got shared as well. So I think if we just have enough people sharing and resharing, maybe we'll get some more as well for.
Yeah, I think, yeah, go ahead and do one more Facebook blitz and then we'll take that and go with that.
I appreciate what Pat says. I wish we had done that when we went over these questions, because I know we,
Right.
as a group, did it, but let's have a meeting and let's beat up that question list, just that. Because that's a very important, probably the most important thing.
I think, having even a 6% return rate will give us some idea of what
Yeah.
questions are important. Maybe we could do something different, but I think it will help guide us, even though it's a low,
Yeah.
low sample size.
And I guess I'd like to know, did anything stand out when you,
I only
any
gave it a
particular
real quick
issue?
perusal, but when
Okay.
I'll tease some more out of it when I maybe dive into it after the survey goes. No, nothing shocked me.
George, did you have something?
And then the remainder, the main core benchmarks that are left. So you'll have the survey report, you'll have the existing land use inventory, which we'll talk about today, creating a future land use map, the visioning, which are the goals and objectives, and then the strategy, the implementation, the actions, and the action plan are going to be the core pieces that we'll bring to the committee for review.
Do we have a timeline on those?
It'll all depend on what we cover during a committee meeting,
Okay.
knowing that we have 5 meetings remaining.
Just one last thing for me. So each of us have been tagged a different element. How will we know when to get with, will one of you be detailed to intergovernmental cooperation so that we'll work together with whatever I've thought of?
Whatever, yeah, with the feedback that you have, you can send to me and Autumn and Clem. We can resend our information.
Okay, I was thinking, so will you guys be looking at them as far as adding new stuff as well, or will you just be helping?
The information that we have incorporated is based on the public data sources that we have available. And as the committee or members of the public bring forward information that they also want to include in the plan update, we'll incorporate that.
Okay, will you provide us, will you provide me an intergovernmental cooperation piece based on your reviews of it
Yeah,
before I
that's
start
correct.
looking at it?
Yep.
Okay,
This will be after we've gone through the entire update of the plan. But the important part is your expertise. What other
so we
information
should
should
submit stuff to you before you give that to us, and that will also
you
have
should
yours
submit
in
it after you see the version, the updated version,
So
I
wait
think.
till you guys.
Yes.
get it, then you'll-
Don't-
Okay,
Yeah, I would say don't use the 2016 plan as is to submit information. Wait till you see the updated draft chapters.
okay, so I'll just keep the stuff I have already developed to the
Yes.
side till I see your,
Because the other
Okay.
issue that we've had is there's no editable document. We've had to recreate the whole document because there was no editable version,
okay. Thank you.
which has also taken time. Yeah, good questions. Any other questions on any parts of that?
So, but all 5 of those benchmarks are geared to be done by August of 2026.
Yes, each meeting. So this meeting is existing land use and future, or existing land use and issues and opportunities. And then we'll have the survey report. We'll probably bring up the draft plan chapters and how to look at those at the next meeting. And then future land use, and then a meeting for the visioning, and then a meeting for the implementation. And I can recognize that sometimes we won't be able to get through everything through one meeting.
Jordan.
It's just a functional question. I was wondering if you use any, artificial intelligence tools, because my wife wanted to translate a family document, a memoir in Polish of about 70 pages, and she just found out that using Microsoft Copilot, they would translate the whole thing and put it in an editable form. So it strikes me that maybe they're new tools.
Yeah, we've converted the documents, but that also changes all the behind the scenes formatting, which is where the time consuming part is. But yes,
Because we always want figures and tables and stuff to be in the right spot.
yeah. Too many section
Typesetting.
breaks.
So the moral of this is when this is done, we need to get a Word version of this to
Yeah.
store somewhere.
Yeah, we'll send you all of the information we have, including the GIS data.
Any other questions on the timeline, benchmarks, or roles and responsibilities? Are we good with this? And I mean, we'll have to, because I see there's 6 months, but we're only gonna have 5, so that means 1 month we're not gonna have a meeting with you, right?
Yeah, I think the timing will work out with, it'll probably be somewhere like visioning and implementation is going to take more than one meeting for you, but we'll be able to start that with you and you'll be able to complete that.
And I think we have to be aware that in April, we have reorganization.
Yes.
And so there may not be a meeting after the third Tuesday in April until May. So if we're going to have an April meeting, we want to meet before the third Tuesday in April.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a question for Dan. I don't believe there are any members of the committee who are not going to be reelected. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's correct, but I have not been told by every member of this committee they want to continue on this committee. So I'm not going to put words in their mouth. And so,
That's an option, huh?
it is an option, but, we could, if everybody wants to stay on this committee, I can certainly ask the person, whomever, I assume it's Chairman Merted, but whoever is elected chair to make the appointment on reorg day. But that's a question you guys will have to, you'll have to let me know that before then. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
Wh-
that's what I'm gonna do with HHS. I'm
Wh-
gonna,
When's the election?
something, and it's always 2 weeks.
2 weeks after, right?
Yeah. So it's always the third Tuesday in
It-
April.
Is the term done before the election? Like, are we technically not elected in between there?
No, you're technically elected until the third Tuesday in April.
Okay.
So once it hits midnight, that's when the new people or the newly elected or the re-elected take office again.
As a master of many elections,
Yeah.
don't count your chickens before they're hatched,
Right.
because I have seen write-ins come in at the last minute and wipe somebody out.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying whomever is elected, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Based off this, and I know we're jumping ahead, but based off this timeline, I think we should strive to have an earlier meeting in April, to make sure that we stay on track. Because summer people start traveling on vacations and it might be harder in summer. And so if we got to skip a month, it'd be better to skip June, July than April. So I think we probably will have to have one earlier in April, and we can worry about that next month when we schedule it, or even the month after that in March. But all right. Anything else on A before we go on? Then we'll go ahead and go to the review existing land use inventory with the map.
Sure. So,
And before you start, does that QR code take you to the same place the link does?
yeah,
I didn't do the QR code, but I did.
same place. Okay, so since we met last, I developed a future land use or an existing land use inventory for the entirety of Ashland County, with the exception of the city of Ashland and the city of Mellon. Those kind of get done in their own comprehensive planning processes. We're currently working on the Mellon comp plan, so that will get incorporated into the data once it's finished. But so as far as the process goes, this is a standardized process we use in all our comp plan updates for existing land use, where I assign categories to land based on visual interpretation of the aerial photo, parcel size, and improved value from the statewide parcel data set, of which Ashland County submits their parcels to on a regular basis for our updates. In your packet, I sent along definitions of the categories. It's a handful of definitions. I'm not going to go through them all with you, but I just want you to know that these have been aggregated from the categories I assign. Just for the county update, it's easier to kind of aggregate your types of residential versus having 50 categories and try and stick them all on a map. I do have the finer data for comp plan updates for municipalities if they choose to update in the future. Just want to make everybody aware that that would be available to a local municipality if they wish to do an update. And there's about 17,000 parcels that I went over individually to assign a land use to. The only splitting I did of parcels was if it was an ag parcel that's partially forested, I kind of made the split between agriculture and the forested areas just to kind of keep those acreages more in line of what they are in real life. And I know it's not going to be perfect. It's just based on the data available at hand countywide. But I do think it gets us well into the ballpark when we're looking at stats for the land use chapter. This is kind of going to inform quite a bit of that land use chapter, land use element required by the comprehensive planning law. So that's it. The link to the map is on the agenda, and there's a QR code if you want to visit it on your phone. It works okay on the phone. I would recommend, looking at it on PC if you really want to dive in and take a look at things. I also sent the data to Brittany at Land Information, and she kind of took a look at it and looks to be in line with what's on the ground. So it has been vetted in that manner, and just willing to take any questions you guys may have about the process.
Go ahead, Pat.
If someone wants to put in a solar farm, and it might depend on size, what category or categories would it fall under?
I would put it under utility, because it's the same with, water tower, bulk propane storage, all that goes under utility.
So that didn't sound like a definitive answer.
I've
Okay.
never done one of these that has a solar farm on the ground for existing land use.
So I'm thinking Barron County in particular at the moment, they got like 3 square miles of solar farms. And but did you do their comp plan update by chance, or
Barrett County is not in our region.
not in your service area?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious if you could send it to Dan or something, if you know anything on categories that are used for zoning on solar farms.
Sure.
For zoning or for land use?
Both, really.
Yeah, I
Is it-
know.
Really, it's what you would define
Yeah,
it under.
if you guys had a property that you thought was going to be a solar farm and you wanted to add it as a category,
Really is up to you.
this is just based on what's on the ground now. This is an inventory of what's presently there.
So if we're going to be forward looking in the next 10 years, would we use exactly what we have here, or would we add something to it to
I think that's where
consider?
the future land use map comes into play, as part of the comprehensive planning law. It's the one required map in the plan. I think that's where that would fit in better.
You can use this map as a basis to create your future land use map. So you have the existing land use map, that's the human activity on the land, what's happening on the land right now, regardless of the current zoning classification. And then you have the future land use map, the 20-year outlook. So you can look at what do we want the land use pattern to look like in the year 2046.
So if someone today walked into the Aspen County Courthouse and says, I want to put in a big solar farm, and they're looking at this, how do we determine, this question to Dan and others perhaps,
This,
how do we determine which of these would fit that?
this is the actual current use. But you would come up with future land use categories for your future land use map and then figure out where that would go on that map.
So, but again, if someone today wanted to walk in and say, I want to put up, and we looked at our uses as stated, do we know where it would fit in? Dan, or?
Well, yeah, they could put it anywhere that's unrestricted zoning. I mean, or it's commercial, or either one of those somebody could put it in. I mean, that's how the man camp got put in. It was unrestricted zoning, so the DSPS could issue that permit.
That-
And if you, you know, anything can change tomorrow because in southern Wisconsin, a farmer was offered huge amounts of money per acre. And I'm talking $60,000 an acre to buy his farm for a solar field. And he turned it down and put his land in conservation, which good for him, but so, you know, if a company came in next week and said, hey, we want to build a solar farm in Marengo, zoning would have to look at that, I'm assuming, and say, you know, is it legal, doable? Would you, if it's, say it's farmland or agriculture, you'd have to decide if you want to change that.
My takeaway from this is we don't know which of these categories we would consider a solar farm falling into. We're having a discussion and
You-
debate.
This is the current.
I know.
Future land use. That's the desired future land use. That's the beauty of it. You get to decide that.
But my understanding is under state rules right now, if someone wants to put one in, we can't say no. So my question is, under these existing descriptions, do we even know where it would fit? And apparently collectively, I don't think we do we?
No, we
There-
do. Carisha, do you have access to the current zoning map of the county?
You know, and I'm okay with leaving this for the moment. It just means it's something that we
This
need to consider.
Map is different than the future land use map. I think you're getting at the future land use conversation that we need to have.
But as a starting point, before this gets approved.
But this is the current use. This isn't what might happen. This is what is happening right now today in 2026. So the future land use, that would be something you can use if something needs to be rezoned. That's why there is the consistency requirement in the comprehensive planning law that all zoning must be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Well, if it's an allowable use now, again, my take is as a county, we don't understand which description is appropriate and what applies, which means we should figure.
That would be a part of your future land use
Thi-
discussion.
Pat, this map that they're, not this one that's showing, but they're of what is currently there based off of these 16 categories or 15 categories, whatever it is. That's what's currently being
For
done.
example, would it?
It's not zoned that way necessarily.
No.
That's how it's zoned.
Pat, on any of those orangish areas that says unrestricted. So any of those places it could go.
Oh.
One thing that you want to take my. There we go. And also I'd like to point out that your future land use map, it doesn't necessarily have to align with these categories at all. The county gets to write how they classify future land use. It doesn't have to fit into one of these categories. So if the county wanted a future land use called solar farms, they had somewhere to put them, they could do that. That's fine as part of the future land use planning process.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the question in my mind has to do with the power of the comprehensive plan in terms of requiring and standing as guidance for future decisions of the county board, and whether a landowner could raise future objection to a changing of the land use based on he's saying, the long-term plan says, I'm this, and now you want to change it to B, and I object, would that have any force?
That's,
Yes, it could. If your zoning laws don't comply with your comprehensive plan, then yes, somebody could object. However, the reverse situation was where we have it zoned agricultural and somebody buys it and they want to build a commercial building on it. They could challenge our zoning laws under a right to build law that was passed 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So, um, so yeah, it works both ways depending on how you're looking at it.
and then you have the visioning, the goals, objectives, and actions where you can write about something that has to do with solar farms or agriculture, or specific land uses, and what you want to see in Ashland County.
The problem, Pat, is with stuff that's unrestricted. So now you have to create zoning to, you know, make sure CAFOs have to follow a certain thing. Mine's gotta follow a certain process. That's what we were facing before. We didn't have that. So we had to create those things before the threat arrived. And just so you can control them a little bit. So solar right now, I can put one in my backyard and no one's gonna say anything because it's unrestricted at this point. So if we want to introduce zoning that sets boundaries on solar, commercial versus private, those type of things, you know, you're getting calls. The industry knows exactly every bit of land in this county that's suitable for solar, and they send a letter to everybody who will listen and made an offer and then said, you know, like with my mother's, oh, you're not close enough to a substation, blah, blah, blah. So we need their maps, and then we need to introduce some kind of controls if we see fit, but we haven't done that mapping. And if we did, and there's been an effort to do that from Peter Levi's organization, I forget what it is. We don't know all the areas, even in town. Ashland could put a lot of solar up out on the old dump, out on my mom's place. There's a bunch of places that aren't, you know, public land. So maybe we need a meeting about that, Brad. Just to, you know, to see what do we want to do with this plan and with solar. Thank you.
I have a couple questions on the map, and it could be because of the colors, but then when I click on it and I see a parcel that says it's rural shoreline residential and it's 8.4 acres. And then I go to the description of rural shoreline residential is it says residential properties of less than 5 acres with an improvement value over 10,000 or greater and all shoreline adjacent residencies. I take that reading as that if it's over 5 acres, it does not come into a rural spot.
5 acres or so that's where the more fine categorizations come in. So I took what I call residential, which is kind of your smaller under 5 acre parcels. Maybe they're adjacent to a city or a village, but that's combined with shoreline residential and rural residential, which is parcels, you know, kind of out further away from town, under 5 acre or under 10 acres. Those all get aggregated together for that category.
They're bigger. It's over 5 acres. And so that's where I'm confused is because how is it grouped in that if it's supposed to be under 5 acres for rural residential?
What is it, shoreland?
No.
Okay. Well,
I
then,
mean, look here, it looks like there's one out there on the screen right now.
let's see here.
26. Is that 26 acres? Scroll to the top. Rural residential, and it's 26 acres.
Yeah, that is an oversight on my part.
There's, but it's like almost all the yellow.
Okay,
Look that way, and that's why I don't know if it's like the color palette. A
yeah,
lot of similar colors, but then when I click on a yellow, and it says rural residential or rural shoreline
Sure.
residential, and it's over 5 acres. Like, is that description correct? That it's rural residential, doesn't matter how big the acreage is.
I'll have to dive into that when I get back in the office. Thank you for pointing it out. But I see what you're saying. There's a couple, like those are all shoreline, and that's why they're yellow, but they're larger than 5 acres. But if you have some out in the middle of nowhere, they could be on a river that isn't portrayed in the map too. I count that as shoreline if someone's got a riverfront home.
Looks like on water
Yeah.
that are in here, that are away from on microphone, that are away from water, that look like that.
Sure, I can
Oh.
double check on that when I get to the office and I can update this as we go. So if you guys run into things like that, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or have questions down the line.
But I wonder if there's, I don't know what the GIS has for color, if there's like a pattern to put on there as well. I know that like when you're zoomed out, it's gonna be messy, but like some way to help differentiate. It's like, because Marina and institutional
They're really close.
yeah,
Yeah,
really close, but at least they're next to each other, so I can kind of see the difference in that in the color order
Yeah.
on the key. But when you look at forest residential, well, what was it? Not well, undeveloped versus rural shoreline residential are pretty close. Industrial extraction, those are
yeah,
pretty
and
close.
that's
and
the
they're hard to
limitation of,
Yeah.
there's only so many crayons in the box, you know what I mean? I tried to differentiate them as best I could, but sometimes it gets washed out depending on which computer you're looking at. But yeah, I can definitely like differentiate those further using some cross hatching or, some texture along with the color, if that would help.
It might, and I know that we're in this new federal mandate for accessibility, and I don't know if this passes accessibility. We're not in a large enough jurisdiction that we have to follow the federal, but I don't know, or do we, Dan? Do you know we have to follow the federal accessibility guidelines?
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay. So I don't know if we could put this on the website if that's not following. And I don't know what all is in there, but I always wonder when we have a lot of colors like this, if it's going to work.
Yeah, it gets messy really fast. But I can try and update it. I mean, this map is kind of a work in progress at this point. I mean, I don't by any means think it's finalized. If you guys have changes you'd like to see or further aggregating of the categories, I'm more than happy to do that if we want to reduce the number of colors.
And then, was there some reason that the city of Ashland's airport is just part of city instead of airport when it would have been like since it's that little squiggly down below there, isn't that just the airport there?
Yeah, just because the city of Ashland owns that and I didn't do land use for the city of Ashland.
Okay.
That'll be part of their
All right.
comprehensive planning process.
I didn't realize the city had that. There's a little insert in there. What is that in between the Bayfield County line and?
That's the airport.
No, yeah, but what's that part of the county there? Is
The,
that,
the little, that's the Jingles.
oh, that's Jingles. Okay.
Yeah, it's just because the airport is owned by the city. That's why.
Anything else regarding the existing land use?
If I recall, not that long ago in Washington, one of the things they changed, I believe, is this definition related to intermittent waterways has to do, partly with farming and uses and stuff. But now I believe they wanted to have a flow of water essentially year-round instead of just seasonal. So in Washington, changing that definition, I believe, is going to have ripple effects for states needing to change their maps to remove areas that were otherwise protected with intermediate water. So this affects wetlands too. But I don't know when that is going to trickle down and state will change, but it might be something to keep an eye on as we get late on this process to see if the state's updating their maps and definitions.
Yeah, I know there's an ongoing process, even at the federal level right now with high accuracy LiDAR becoming more readily available. The 3DEP program, maybe it's not 3DEP, but there's a USGS program where they're kind of working on updating how water flows across the landscape. And I know Wisconsin's still working off the 20K hydro, which was developed a long time ago based off of, you know, orthophotos and USGS topo quads. And it's just a matter of catching up.
Go ahead, George.
I just want to ask, based on your experience with other county boards, how and when county boards actually use this mapping as a tool once it's set in place? Do they actually get used for purposes?
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from more the town level. When a town has a land use map, a future land use map, and zoning, you know, wants to make a change that isn't congruent with the land use map. It's kind of a bottom up thing more so than it is a top down thing.
And I think another is that having this existing land use and using the same existing land use categories, you could compare existing land use change over time, which is an interesting thing to look at for planning.
All right. Anything else on existing land use? Okay.
Next, then we'll move to the overview of community demographics change. And there was a document in the packet, that a little slideshow. Are you going to show that, or I guess there's a?
I also have, am I able to share the screen? Let's see. So the document that was shared in the packet comes from Lightcast, which is economic development software that Northwest Regional Planning has available. But before we start on the issues and opportunities and a review of those from 2016, I wanted to give us a bit of a basis to think about the demographics of Ashland County and how things might have changed. Because especially I know you haven't seen the updated draft plan chapters yet. But this data helps illustrate how the county has been changing. And I'll try to keep it high level on the context, and then we'll use this to revisit the 2016 issues and opportunities. Take a look at what still applies, what's shifted, and then what we might need to revisit. So starting with the historic and projected population trends. Since 2019, the county's population has grown about 4.4%, and it's expected to rise another 3.3% by 2029, which gives us a sense, yes.
Sorry, quick question. Is Lightcast using demographic data that is actually fully
Yes.
updated?
It is, I think it's using the US Census Bureau data, and then it takes whatever the most recent data it can find. I can pull from the report where each of
Okay.
the data sets come from, and I can share that with you.
I guess I'm just, my only question is, you know, back in spring when we had the massive federal layoffs all around the Bay, plus at least the announcement of Northland closing and then it fully closed
Yeah.
May. I'm just wondering if this data does reflect both of
Yes.
those.
I think
things. Okay.
this specific report was Q4 2025, and that's where the data sources are from. I know it's using the American Community Survey 5-year 2019 to 2023, and then the Wisconsin Information for Economic Development. Yes.
So similar concern is those things close. And last fall, I looked at the data related to this sort of stuff. And I think we need to look at this as late in the game on this plan again as we can, because when I looked, it still included Northland. In fact, you've got Northland College later in this very document. So I question how much they've taken into account of the fact that Northland closed. And the big concern I have about including data from Northland there, when I looked at the methodology for how the population trends in Ashland County or any county in Wisconsin are calculated, one of the key things they look at are women of childbearing age. So think Northland College with lots of women that are just on the early end of childbearing age. So these projections are not only reflective of, what you said, we had Northland close and some other people we think leave, but in particular, heavily weighted towards young females entering childbearing age. And therefore, it really skews it more than just the surface numbers because of the demographics that we think that we have lost. But, 6 months, 8 months from now, late in the game, take a look at it as close as you can then.
Yeah, this is a national data set. And you know that the data, as soon as it comes out, it's already obsolete. It's already old, but it still tells you some information. It's still something I don't think we should disregard. I think it still tells a bit of a story.
Yeah, no, I think the story, because it might have changed in between, like the projected population increase seems odd to me when we're losing employment opportunities.
And also,
And so, yeah, if it was, because there's a lot of dates in there about 2024. And so, yeah, with Northland, that probably is true. Without Northland, so if we can pull it again, I think is what Pat's saying.
this is the most recent data set.
Well, I know, but maybe in 6 months or 8 months, it might be enough that we could pull it again.
Today, this is the most
Yep.
recent data set.
So I just want to say the Wisconsin Department of Administration updates populations by counties and
Yeah, I was
municipalities.
just gonna say that.
So, I mean, I just pull up the most recent one and it's 1/1/25. So, sometime this spring they'll come out with the 26 numbers. So, but as of 25, we lost 280 people.
Which makes more sense for what I see on the ground, that 25, the projected from 24 goes up, and it was a loss. And so, and again, I know that's just the data here and that, but in 24, they thought there was going to be an increase, and what we actually saw was a decrease. I imagine that there's another decrease coming in for when we see the number in 26. So I think that projected is, like Pat said, based off of things that have changed that that projection. Because you're not doing the projections. The national database is doing the projections and
National
stuff. Yeah.
database, and then there is also the 20-year projections from the Wisconsin Department of Administration, which will include in the comprehensive plan. And then the characteristics.
Oh, Charlie, you got a question?
Oh, are you sure? Well, if you have a good question, you should ask it.
I'm just not sure if this is the right spot. Oh, it says economy overview. George and I were talking the other day, and it would be interesting if we could get, what is the total dollar amount this county creates, and how much is spent and how much is brought
As
in?
far as
Well, economic leaks,
sales.
the bucket, the leaks. So are we,
Yeah,
that kind of thing?
okay.
That's something we would have to add, or is it somewhere?
Well, there was that table right at the beginning that was called the region, and I assume that that was the county because the population value was the same as the county.
It's county.
And so it has a labor force, jobs, the cost of living, but then it has a gross regional product, I guess is GRP.
Mhm.
And then imports versus exports
Okay.
in terms of 1.36 billion brought into the county and 1.33 leaving the county.
So you could interpret a deficit that we have of what, 300,000? That we're spending more than so we're spending more than we're importing more than we export. We have a trade deficit. So I think the goal is, from what I remember Jordan and I talking about, was finding out how we could make that the other way. We could be more self-sufficient.
Well, it's probably because you got people like me that work outside the county, right?
Well, perhaps. That's
So-
part of it, but.
Because there is that table down below that shows how, yes, there's more people that come into the northern part of the county and more people that leave the southern part of the county to work,
Yeah.
but that doesn't when we expanded outside of just Ashland County, that's probably, there was a table of something we saw recently that showed that too.
Okay. Well, I guess I would like, perhaps the group could think about if that's something we want to act on that would improve our economy, obviously.
Right.
Not to be deficit spenders or, have a trade deficit. And the more sustainable we come. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
So it's nice to have demographic data and, data of all sorts, but then you also have to look at it and, with a critical eye and think about stuff. And then we can add comments in here. I would assume that as we edit this, things like Northland College closed, and when we get towards the end of this, make a statement about, that and the concerns we might have in terms of, the data being veiled. But, when I read something like this, for example, the millennials in the upper left, 2,643, Ashland County has 2,643 millennials, which are age 25 to 39. Then the national average for this phrase, for an area this size, that strikes me, it's not based on geographic area. I think what they mean is for an area with the population that we have. So it's really not based on how many square miles is Ashland County. It's based on the population, because our area is going to stay the same. Our population is going to vary. So, proportionately to somewhere else with the population that we have, I think is what they mean on this.
Yes, I think it's population density is a better way to look at in the same level of density of population.
So,
And if we singled out 16,354 people, we would expect 3,315 of those to be that age of, again, that would show we're below that, so the growth should be much lower.
so before we approve this, next year, we should know if it's based on what, Brad described, based on proportionally to Ashland County's population, the density, or I can't imagine they're talking about geographic density.
The point of this, I think, is that there are fewer millennials in Ashland County than the national average.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point of this, but I got to tell you, when things are written where the
This-
point is one thing and what's stated are not consistent,
This is informational, informational and for just the basis for the issues and opportunities. This is from a national data source. This is information only. This is not something that's included in the comprehensive plan, honestly. This data is just a piece of information. Like, you can make it mean whatever you want to make it mean.
Well, I think what Pat's saying is that when you use a term like area, that is describing a
That's fine, but this is not my terminology.
right. But we're just saying we got to
You
make sure we're
Pick that up with Lightcast.
well, and that's my point. When I read stuff like this, I am so checked out on the credibility of it. Years ago, there was a book written called Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics. And it's all about how statistics get presented and people say, oh, this is the statistics. But when you think about the title, Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics, when we don't accurately present things and make them valid, use language that's appropriate, we can end up anywhere you want to lead people. And frankly, it happens every day in our lives in all sorts of ways. Like when people talk about politics, they'll present things in the way that, and phrases that suits their purposes, and we lose track of the truth. And this sort of stuff, when it's written like that, I mean, I'm so totally checked out on the meaning of so much of what this company presents. I've seen their stuff before, and I just have too many concerns to take it very seriously, other than in maybe very broad strokes. And I think we can and should do better than that, because we're trying to put a comp plan together that includes demographic data.
This is broad strokes for the issues and opportunities review.
So,
Did I miss, or do we have information on the school age population,
Yes.
elementary, middle school, high school?
Yes.
Because those are the
They come-
people that'll be living here 10 years from now.
The WISE Dash,
And
the
the-
WISE Dash database. Yeah. Department of,
We
the
have-
Department of Public Instruction has that data, yes.
And we have,
And then I also, as I was looking at that chapter, there's information on like homeschool and private school enrollment. I don't know if that's something that would also be important to include in the plan. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it would be for, absolutely.
Okay.
I got 2 pages of notes on this. Is there any point in me saying anything more than I've already said, or should I just skip it so we get done with this and we move on?
I'm just saying that this is information only, like this is a perspective.
I'll-
This is,
Does this information go into
there are
the
pieces
comp
of
plan?
this that are a part of the comprehensive
So
plan, yes.
Pat, I think keep those 2 pages of notes for when the comp plan comes out, and we'll apply it to the actual plan as opposed to just this one. Does that sound all right?
Yes, and before you give it to this committee or the board again, take a good look at what you're reading and some of their,
That's why we need critical thinkers like you on this committee, I suppose. Um, so population characteristics. The higher number of veterans in Ashland County, and then violent crime and property crime information. The top growing industries, construction, retail, trade, administrative and support and waste management. Top industry earnings, utilities, the top industry, followed by finance and insurance and management of companies and enterprises.
When you pull this data, could you define those areas, or are those predefined by the national database there too?
For
Like,
each piece.
yeah, all these, when you have the list with what the categories are.
This is based on the national, I don't know what it stands for, the NAICS code. Their industry sector categories that
They're
have
all going to be the
benefits.
same
Yes.
across the board.
Yes. Top growing industries, construction, followed by retail, trade. Industry earnings, utilities. Largest occupations compared to the national average. You have office and administrative support, followed by sales and related, and then food preparation and serving related occupations. The top growing occupations are management and healthcare practitioners and technical. And also the top occupation earnings are management and healthcare practitioners and technical. Underemployment, comparing jobs requiring an education level with the population at the education level. And then in-demand skills, top demanded skills, lifting ability, nursing, merchandising, radiology, family medicine, all compared to the national average.
Can before you move on to this one, can you explain how the in-demand skills is that from job announcements of the skills that are looking? Is that where they pull that information?
I believe so, yes. Which is an interesting insight. Is that your thinking?
It's what
I think it shows what employers are looking for broadly.
right. But it's funny that the most common is that you can lift something.
Yes.
I mean, that's not really,
Like it's-
I have a hard time saying that that's a skill.
Mhm.
I mean, I know, but almost every job has able to lift 25 pounds or something like that. But a lot of jobs have that. And I don't think that that's an in-demand skill because it's listed a bunch. But it gets to the data of how they pull it. And
Yeah.
that stuff is uniqueness. And but I'm also interested in how, like, when you show this, and maybe you're gonna get to it in the issues and opportunities, but I didn't really see how, like, that underemployment that says we have a whole bunch of jobs that requiring bachelor's degree and not very many people in the population that have a bachelor's degree based off of that. And then we have a bunch of people that have no formal education. But we don't have that many people with no formal education, which I thought it's said someplace else that there was an education
Mhm.
issue, but it seemed like we have a highly educated county. It's required.
I guarantee you right now, you're gonna see the kids coming out of school that never finished high school. Our absentee rate in this state is out of this world.
You want to use the microphone, Gary? Gary, you want to use the microphone?
Where are we gonna put those students? They're coming out of school with no diploma. They've missed half of their school days. So at some point, we're gonna have to figure out, okay, what do we do
Well,
with them?
according to this, we have a whole bunch of jobs without the population to do it. So it's actually, we're okay with that. But that's what I want to look at this and say, how this is, where's the opportunity with trying to get, is the county's responsibility to get more jobs requiring an associate's degree or a graduate degree? Is that our opportunity, or is it our opportunity to try to get more people that have no formal education to meet those jobs that we have a whole bunch of those jobs available? Go ahead, George.
Just want to add one point to Gary's information is that my Mennonite neighbors, and they have their own school, they go through 8th grade and they're done, right? Just a point of information.
Is that gray bar the current amount of employees working in those fields?
That's the county population at that education level.
And so the blue bar means,
The jobs available that are requiring that education level.
okay, and I see that, but so how,
I think it's trying to get that it shows where residents
way
might,
more uneducated people,
No, we have way more jobs that don't require education than we have educated people in the
so.
community.
So that means we don't have as many uneducated people as we need,
Well,
Right.
correct?
It's one way to look at it. Or we don't have enough jobs that require an education to meet the needs of the population. But again, when we're talking about population growth, if we hey, the number of jobs that require an associate's degree aren't anywhere close to the population we already have. So if you have an associate's degree, don't come up here. You're not getting a job that requires that. But the bachelor's degree, we don't have the population to meet all the jobs that require the bachelor's degree. Same thing with no formal education in high school. But then the graduate degree, hey, move up here or don't move up here with a graduate degree because we don't have that job for you. So it's
or you might be working in a job that you're not fully using your skills.
right. Which is hard to keep people around if,
So does this mean that those jobs, so that those no formal education required jobs that's the amount of them, are they filled with overqualified people?
yes. It would be my guess because we don't have that much unemployment, right? Well, I forget the unemployment number.
Okay, so that graph to me is like that other one was to Pat. It's either too simple for me to make calculations. I'm too simple to understand it, or it doesn't come to any points that are useful for at least my brain.
Well, and that's what I'm hoping the next thing, but when I read through it, I don't see some of this data then leading to the issues and the opportunities of how we can do that. And that's the disconnect that I'm seeing. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, just going back to Pat's point about the skepticism skepticism around data, not to demean this, but if you had an associate degree in nursing and were an RN, you get a job right away. No problem.
There are a lot of details. This is a
Yeah.
very broad, high level. And now we get into the details by hearing from you about the issues and opportunities.
So we'll go ahead and just go right into that. Oh, sorry, there's questions that were unpacked. Go ahead.
But you know, even one like this, there's, I think, some questions that come to mind. For example, is this only where there's job openings, or what about the self-employed people? We know in Ashland County, between farming and forestry, we have a lot of people in those jobs that are often self-employed. And are those people aggregated in here? So, you know, a couple sentences that tell us, you know, for example, does this include self-employed people or job openings? And then we've also got this issue of, on average, we're a much older county. Our median age is larger in this county than most counties. And so we've got this population that's historically older and in many cases, you know, has less education. But that doesn't mean, I mean, there's retired people that are out of the workforce, and I can't tell from looking at this if those people are aggregated into this or not. So, you know, a few sentences sometimes can help us make more sense of the data and understand what it is or isn't potentially. And, you know, I know this company's throwing this stuff out there because there's good money in doing that. But if you start answering some of those questions that come to mind from the typical reader of this, you know, it's hard to really make much sense out of what it is or isn't.
Right, go ahead, Erica.
There was one graph that I feel is tracking with what I feel is realistic on the ground. It was on page 10 of what was in the packet. I don't know if you have it in your slides, but it's labor force participation rate trends. And I'm looking at the far right-hand side of it because it says between July of 2025 and September of 2025, there is a almost 2% decrease. So like it's 1.8, 1.75 decrease in labor force participation in just those months between July and September, which would reflect Northland. And I think probably would start to reflect the sort of later part of the layoffs of federal workers, at least. I mean, there's probably umpteen other things going on in the county, but I guess to me that does invite, like, it would be super awesome. And you've already said that you'll do it. Like, if we can get the Lightcast Q1 for 2026 in here, then we'll be able to maybe piece together graphs that are already making sense to us. And then you kind of use those for our own personal forecasting.
Dan, go ahead for.
I think it'd also be helpful for at least 25 to get the Bayfield County numbers.
Sure.
Because that would reflect all of the federal workforce loss and Northland College too, so.
So within the comprehensive plan, you mean, the actual?
Well, I think it's important for us to know, to
see that.
understand why our numbers are the way they are. And if Bayfield County is seeing a similar drop,
Sort of
we know that's
compares.
where the federal workforce in Northland College drop happened. And we could,
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel like we lost population. I mean, there are not that many houses for sale, and there haven't been. So it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel like that.
Can you go to the page direct? I'm sorry, go ahead, George.
No, I just wanted to say I see a lot of value in these analysis because it creates the basis for the beginning of a sifting and winnowing and building, and we needed this foundation to start from.
Yes, thank you.
Can you go to the page directly above that, please, as long as we're on this topic? Just one up from where you were.
I didn't include,
Page
Yeah.
10, I think.
Page 10 of the document, or 11 of the. So from 2019 to 2024, jobs emphasis word declined by 2.4% in Ashland County. And then the next sentence, this change fell short of the national growth rate. So they're comparing a job decline with a growth rate. And then, I mean, they're comparing two different things. And then that growth rate of 4.4% by 6.8%. I mean, I tried to make sense of that earlier today, and it just doesn't make any sense if I take the words verbatim. And then this 4.4% by 6.8%. My question there would be, did they really mean a change of 6.8% or percent relative to that 4.4, or did they mean 4.4 plus a 6.8 together?
No, so what it means, Pat, is we were negative 2.4. The national average is plus 4.4, which is a difference of 6.8%.
This fell short of the national growth rate of 4.4%.
By 6.8. It's not it's saying that we're 6.8%, which is not really true. We're 6.8 units different than that.
If we fell short of 4.4% by 6.8%,
No, the national average is 4.4%. Ours was negative 2.4%. Do negative 2.4, add 6.8 to that, and you get 4.4.
the words in there,
But you don't really get 4.4, but it's close.
no, it's no, you don't. You actually
You-
get 4.721%. If you take the words verbatim in here,
The other thing, going back to that one graph on labor force participation rate, how many people retired? You know, if you had a bunch of retirees, they're not in the labor force. So, you know, is it just people aren't working? And what is the reason? Are they retired? Are they just?
Wasn't there a table that had like the age breakdown of workforce?
Yeah, I think they include labor force as like, is like a definition of age. I think you're right.
But like there's the unemployment by age has 20% of age 65 or older are unemployed by that age. Is that by choice or are they trying to find a job? I don't know where that comes from. The unemployment demographics. Go ahead.
That's I think we need to know the individuals, what exact jobs, why they quit, so we can see if it means anything. Like, was it retirees? Did retirees help up, or did 6 people lose their job, 5 went to jail? You know, without knowing the individual circumstances behind each one of those job changes, plus or minus or whatever, it's hard for us to make any kind of, you know, should we do something about it, or can we do something about it? So, yeah, you can just have numbers up there, and we know we were 4.4% behind the national average, but so what? What's the conclusion, and can we do anything?
Right. Pat's still hung up on negative 2.4. Add 2.4 to that. What do you get?
no, the problem.
You get
with-
0, and then add 4.4, and you get 6.8.
Culturally, what we've been conditioned to do is to take things. If I wrote a math test with the question on this and I marked the student's paper wrong for what you tell me the answer is, and the student explained why they did that, my reaction should be, oh, I have a poorly written question there. I always made out my answer keys in advance of giving any quizzes or tests. So if my question isn't hopefully clear and, you know, in a correct question, I would recognize that. But what happens culturally is we're so used to reinterpreting something put in front of us. And this culture of, I can write it whatever way and someone can try to make sense of it.
So this is coming from pulling data. And what it is when it pulls the data, it fills in the gaps of what the difference is between it. So the sentence is written, and yes, the sentence is written bad, but it just pulls those numbers. That 4.4 is the national average. Ours was negative 2.4. What's the difference between those two numbers? Is 6.8. It's not technically a percent because that makes us think that it's percent difference. No, it's fully done. The job growth was negative, and the national average is positive by 6.8. And it's making us interpret what they're trying to. It's not Northwest Regional Planning's fault. It's this other place that they're pulling the data from.
I'm not saying I don't understand what they were trying to get at. What I'm saying is the way this written is incorrect, mathematically incorrect for the statements they put there. When you look at calculations involving percents, it's written incorrectly. And I don't know if we're going to clean that sort of stuff up in the plan. So it's not going to be.
This isn't going to be in there.
But if you get stuff from Lightspan, we need time to clean it up before we're done with
Right,
comp
it's
plan.
for our information now.
This is
Thi-
informational.
Yeah.
What the goal of this here is to let us look at some of the changes so that then we can create what are these changes that have created issues and what sort of opportunities for us to then come up with the ways of hitting those issues and opportunities.
All right, Elsa.
Well, that's the hope for the next presentation. So I'm just gonna move on to D here
Yes,
so we can get into this because this is the meat of what this.
this was the
this
whole
should be.
bit. But we only have a few minutes remaining. But I do hope that, I think next meeting, let's do the full issues and opportunities review. We'll have and it'll work well, I think. We'll have the survey report, and then we can go right into the issues and opportunities review. But I wanted to leave you with, as a regional planner, what I've thought about has happened since 2016. What are the changes that I've seen and observed in Ashland County and in the region? The first would be 2017 Wisconsin Act 67. That was updated local zoning and conditional use permit processes, the closure of Northland College. That influences population, workforce, economic conditions, the impacts of COVID-19. That impacts population movement, business operations, planning priorities in general. The seasonal housing and campgrounds, the cabin versus campground battle heats up in Wisconsin Lake Country. That's something we're especially seeing in the counties bordering the state of Minnesota. Large scale RV campgrounds being developed with no oversight, especially the zoning oversight for things like sewer and water. And these people are coming in large numbers, but they're not paying for the resources or the the roadways or the garbage or the disposal like everyone else. And probably something that's going to continue to move further into the state of Wisconsin and throughout this region. You have the Lake Superior water not for sale, the issue in Herbster with the artesian well water and the implications of that. You have the concentrated animal feeding operations and all of those sorts of large scale agricultural operations and the impacts of those. You have the rise of virtual meetings because of COVID-19 that are still continuing today. Those changes still happen today. The Ashland Bayfield County Dispatch. I was a part of the hazard mitigation plan update when this was something that was being completed, so I learned a lot about that. Pipeline and transmission projects, the Ashland Ironwood transmission line relocation, the Line 5 Enbridge segment. Talking with the town of Morris about the current dark sky projects in Ashland County with and the city of Mellon. And all things that I've seen as a regional planner, but I wanted to leave it. Can we end with a round robin of what are the key changes that you've seen in Ashland County since 2016?
Somebody want to start? Go around the room.
Yeah, I will.
Go ahead, Charlie.
We've got a chemistry in our soil threat of epic proportions, and I don't feel it's being appreciated or reacted to. There's $125 million still tied up to Joint Finance Committee. I'm trying to find out how you can approach it. I heard there's a lady somewhere and she's asking for grant applications for particular things. And I think we addressed it in the Farm Preservation Plan, but I think we also need to address it in the agricultural section that Pat's doing. So that's a health issue. Thank you.
Yeah, the baby boom generation of which I am a member is 12 years older. A lot of people leaving the workforce. Right now, you have a lot of baby boomers in volunteer or semi-volunteer roles like this. And in the next 10 years, we will just be trying to keep ourselves in our homes. So there is that impact.
Yeah, I think short term and even long term, Enbridge is a big item, and mining. If Enbridge gets settled, don't be surprised if the mine issue comes back. There's already been discussion, so that's another topic we'll have to deal with. Reviewing what we have, because, yeah.
The huge influx, Airbnb, VRBO, nightly rentals, and the impacts.
Well, living a block from Northland College and looking at it out our front window, I see fewer young people being attracted to the area. Northland brought in a lot of young people, and we all know a bunch of them that stayed. And I think that pipeline of pulling in young people, and I bear in mind that, their childbearing age group, I think that's going to have more of a long-term impact on our demographics than a lot of people realize, like the state's people that do demographics, because it pulled new people here. They didn't just come here to go to school and leave. So many of them stayed. And I also think about growing up on a farm over in Bayfield County. When I was a kid, there was lots of small farms. Lots of people lived on those farms. We did a lot of business in Ashland, obviously. And as people got older, most of them moved to Ashland. We no longer have the old folks leaving farms, moving to Ashland like they once did, because there just aren't hardly any of them anymore. So that's another demographic change that I think is underappreciated, because people look at the city of Ashland kind of independently somewhat, but so much of it depended on the population and the outlying areas, and that has changed significantly in the last generation also. But I also sense that there's more of a concern about environmental issues up here than there was, 10 and 20 years ago. And it's because, in part, we have more people that are here that are either coming here or staying here because the environment's important to them, as opposed to, say, the jobs or something like that.
Well, I think one of the strengths we should be looking at is broadband deployment throughout the county. That process is just starting, but that's going to open up opportunity for more younger people to move here because they can work remotely, but businesses to move here because of the internet. I think we should look at that as a huge opportunity going forward. And
I'm a little bit of a broken record, but I would definitely say Northland closing has ramifications that we still don't even know about yet. And it's attraction for people who aren't even going to Northland College. So I have spoken to so many doctors and lawyers in the area who actually were convinced to move here because there was a small college here, right? And so if we have fewer doctors and every other educated class not moving here or moving here at lower rates, because even if they're not attending, right, but because it was this promise of community and culture. I would also say, just in general, relative loss of working age people, but also outsized increase in retiree population in our northern counties. So people are retiring up here, so we're going to need more and different social services for a population that is aging. But we're also going to have far fewer people, it seems like, to service those people. So that's a real conundrum. And then I would say one thing to me that is actually constant since 2016, and I don't think that the general population sort of understands this, or at least I didn't until I came to work for the county, is that for the past 10 years, Ashland County has been the third to the fourth, sort of switching positions, depending on what numbers you look at, most impoverished county, right? So top 3 or top 4 most impoverished counties in Wisconsin out of 72. And that continues to dig its own hole, right? So I think the ability to sort of consciously see the poverty or uncover it constantly and constantly have that be on the table is pretty important for most of our larger communities and smaller communities in the county.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I would say that we just created our first legislative ask sheet. Get granular on all these issues and say what the threat, what can we do about them? What do we need help with? Put them in their own section. Fire it off to Madison and see if they'll even look at it.
We are lucky that we do have a state representative who has a vested interest in something positive happening with Northland. So, if we come up with ideas, I'm sure she'll push it.
So, everything that's been said is just reiterated. I mean, you can go from Airbnb just to even short-term, seasonal and people, not just renters, but the seasonal. So the housing issue, and I think there was in there, is always going to be a big thing. I'm excited that we're going to have a 150 unit place opening up next year. That's going to hopefully alleviate some, but that's only a Band-Aid. We need probably 10 times that, and probably to meet the need for the doctors and lawyers that is Tamarack or Essentia, whatever it's called now, keeps expanding and bringing in new. We're going to need something, and so I'm sensing that we're not going to go through this whole presentation today.
Yes. I think this is a really good starting off point for our next meeting.
Okay.
We've documented what you've said overall. And then, so there are 13 categories. They're mainly based on the plan chapters or elements. And these are from 2016. So you have the issues on one side, the opportunities on the other. I'd appreciate if the members of the planning committee could take a look at this in between now and the next meeting. And that'll help us, our discussion on what are the issues that are most important to include in the 2026 plan. Yes.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, so to that end, since I'm working on utilities, I will come with issues about utilities.
Yes.
And I would hope that others would bring issues related to the things they've been studying.
And I know that the National Park Service project that Lissa was working on, they also came up with issues and opportunities for all of the plan elements related to climate change. So that's probably something else we should compile into this updated list, because then we'll be able to use this for the visioning and the implementation review.
And then we will also look at the results of the survey
Yes.
and at least introduce that the chapters are
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Not necessarily have discussion at that, because
We'll share the website and how to find things.
so the big thing will be issues and opportunities, and the results of the survey will be
Yes.
the big things. I'm then guessing that you are locked in for about 90 minutes.
Yes, about 90 minutes.
Is our goal, and so we'll try to keep at that. If that's all right with the rest of the committee, that we'll try to do that. Then if there's nothing else, is there a best time to schedule the next meeting? And Emily, it's going to rely on your availability
Yeah, for February.
for February, because other than me, there's a lot of more retired people that should be more flexible. But Pat, go ahead.
I know we're getting late in our term for county board, but our vice chair is now our chair. We no longer have a vice chair of this committee. So I don't know on the next agenda if we want to elect a vice chair or just skip it.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to appoint a vice chair because I think that's in my ability to do. And I will announce that at the next meeting. If anybody wants to be vice chair, by all means, let me know. If anybody doesn't want to be, don't talk to me. All right. So is there a good time, February, if we did, February? Can we do it instead of, since if we start shifting now to get one in early April, can we do it like February? Can you change that calendar up there to February instead of January? Nope. Yep. Okay. Can we do February 17th? Does that work?
It would work, but I just don't know if the draft plan chapters would quite be ready by then. But we'll have what we'll have. Does that sound okay? No? Or do you want to see them all together, knowing that the land use chapter?
We could do that too. But
I'm out of the office the first full week of February, which is my concern.
oh,
County board is on the 24th.
yeah, I was trying to avoid the double dip, but I should look at my calendar while we're here too. Well, how about we'll be in touch
Yeah, that sounds good. So we,
within the next 3 or 4 weeks. I hate to push it out too much further.
yeah, just for the draft plan chapters this time, I would prefer more time.
But again, the goal is to kind of introduce those. We're not going to necessarily have much time to talk about them anyway.
Right.
So I think even if they're not ready yet,
Even if
we can talk about
Yes.
what you want us to do with them.
Yes,
And then
definitely.
that's the assignment at the end of the meeting.
Yes, and that'll still give us time, because I think it'll be the agricultural, natural, and cultural resources is the one that's really dense and the one that is going to take the most time.
So can we just go ahead and pencil in February 17th? And then,
We have a joint dispatch meeting here at 1 o'clock.
how about February 18th?
I might be
ahead.
unavailable, but you guys
Oh.
can.
No, I'm available. I just have a 5 p.m. meeting the next day, so it's fine.
Earlier you mentioned that the government shutdown delayed you getting some things done. If we have another one, is that going to cause any delay in getting anything
No,
done?
now at this point, we have all of the census related data, so we should be okay. And we're still were able to access the data. It was just very time consuming.
Well, we did that this last time and we got 2 members that weren't able to come, and there was like pool of, it started with like 10 dates and it kind of just kept going down.
Yeah,
And so I would like to say, if February 18th.
February 18th.
And on my.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything on the calendar. I may not be able to attend because I have something else going on the 18th and 19th, but you guys can reserve the room and have a meeting.
Is the county closed on President's Day?
Yes, we are.
I think let's just go ahead and do, is February 18th work all right for you?
At 2 o'clock?
At 2 o'clock?
Yes.
All right. So even though Dan might not be available,
And just so you know, George has a HHS meeting at 4:15 that day.
Do you want,
oh, so I'm double dipping for you, George. I'm sorry.
is that time okay?
2 to 3:30 is the goal. Yep. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else. Charlie motions. I don't think we need a second, but
That's Pat will second.
Pat will second to clear it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that where